there are 4 different colours of people: red, yellow, blue and green. Here's how you can identify what colour you are, and maybe more importantly, what colour your prospect is. Welcome back to the podcast, and so great to have you with me as ever. If you love what you hear, please share and like it and tell other people about it so we can encourage them and help them to achieve great sales results. So look, this week I'm going to talk about something that's really an important subject when it comes to sales and selling, and something that most salespeople don't do. And I don't often cover this in my sales training until I get to what I call the advanced stage. And that's because mastering some of the basics of sales is difficult enough. But I want to talk to you about how you can sell more when you can adapt your style to buyer personality styles. And what do I mean by this? And by the way, before you start, people think, oh, are you telling me to not be genuine, James? No, I'm not. I'm not saying don't be authentic and genuine at all. Being genuine is important and you can't hide that. But the reality is there are different types of people. I'm going to talk about 4 different colours of people, not racial colours, but colours in terms of red, yellow, blue and green. There are 4 different types of colours of people. And this is done by a guy called, this is based upon some disc profiling, and also a guy called Thomas Erickson wrote a book called Surrounded by Idiots. And there are different personality styles that people have. And the key thing when it's sales and selling is to be able to adapt to the style of person. And what I'm going to talk through today is how you can look out for different styles and what to consider when you've got these different styles, and what that can mean for the conversation stroke relationships that you have, and what to do and what not to do in certain situations. And let me start by telling you a story. And it's a real story, and it's a story of, I win a lot of business. I'm proud that I'm good at what I do. I generate clients. I bring new business on board. But I lost a deal about 1.5 years ago because I basically approached a sales conversation in the wrong way. And I have some methods. I've had methods for a long time about sales and selling, and the methods are common across the board. But there are also nuances and ways to understand different styles of people. And the long story short is I was doing a proposal for an insurance organisation, and I outlined a proposal, what I wanted them to help them do to achieve the success they wanted to. And long story short, I didn't give enough detail, or I didn't provide enough proof and evidence of how we could make what we suggested come to life. And the person that I was selling to, a CEO, was a different style of person than me. And I didn't adjust my style well enough, and I lost the deal. We didn't win that deal because I don't think we gave that person enough detail. And so, I myself, again, learn from this on a regular basis, and I want you to be in the same position. So look, there is a course that I've been running for a number of organisations. Really, and by the way, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, this course would be quite interesting for me and my team, it is really helpful. We've run it across organisations. The feedback is incredibly positive. People love the ideas and the information that we share. What the elements of it are is that there are so we get people to do this disc test, and what they identify is that there are 4 styles of people, or 4 types of people, and those 4 styles are as follows. There is something called a D, which is a dominant style, and this is what we call a red style, so what we call red-based people, and we'll come on to talk about reds in a moment. We've then got I, which stands for influence, which are what we call yellow people, and the influence is about their particular style. We've then got the S style, which is what we call steadiness, and that's the green people. And we've got the blues, which are the C, which are conscientious. And the reality is, those 4 different styles of people, each can operate in a slightly different way. And it means that when we really want to be uber successful and at the real high levels of selling, it's about adjusting our style of approach to get the right result with them. And let me explain a bit more about the types of colours and the types of people that you get, and what to look out for with those, and where some of those challenges can be. So, for example, if we look at the dominant style, the reds are people that are what I would call very strong, competitive, very driven. They're focused on getting things done. And if you looked at a circle right now, the Ds, there are some people that are very task-focused, whose focus is just about getting the job done. And there are other people that are much more about the relationship with other people and engaging with people and making people feel part of something. And reds tend to be driven. They're very dominant. They're focused on getting the results done. They don't really care so much about the impact they have on other people. It's just about making a result happen. And good examples of reds, or I say good examples, someone like Donald Trump, classic example of a red, very strong. Or you could even argue reds are a little bit narcissistic. They're about them. It's about getting things done. They don't worry about offending the yellows. It's just what's right for them. And reds tend to move really quite quickly, but they're task focused. They just focus on getting the job done. So an example, if you're selling to a red, they're going to want to know how you can make problem A go away. They don't want to know too much about the elements of how it's going to happen and how it's going to affect people. It's just get it done. Let's make it happen. So I can tick the box and move forward. And you need reds in the world. And reds make up about, I think it's about 10 to 15% of the world. You need reds in the world because we need people that are strong leaders. You tend to find a lot of business owners are reds because they're dedicated and driven to achieve something. But reds are definitely a group that you can sell to and engage with. But you can expect a red to be very direct with you. If you've sent a proposal to a red will quite happily tell you that proposal was shit. I didn't like what it said in there. Reds will not hold any punches. They will go give it to you straight and tell you what they're thinking. So the same at the top part of that, we also have got this in this task focus. We've got, as I say, the people that are the conscientious, the blues. And the blues tend to be people that, again, they're very task focused, but whereas the reds tend to be more quite fast paced in what they do on one side. If you imagine a circle with the red in the top right hand corner and the blues is the next left hand corner. The blues tend to be people that don't move as quickly as that. They tend to be a bit more guarded in their approach. You tend to get a lot of blues that are accountants or engineers. They're very logical. They're not necessarily the most extravagant people, whereas reds will be quite larger-than-life characters. Blues tend to be a bit the opposite. They're a bit quieter. They don't express much body language. And blues tend to be people that are focused in on the task and getting the task done, but they don't like the spotlight. They're about just, detail and making sure everything's right. By the C element of things being, they're very conscientious. They're about things being right, which is why accountants tend to be blues, because they're about things being done the right way, not just being done quickly. And blues are great people to work with. You're going to need to present more detail to a blue than not. And you might sometimes think, that person's not been very warm to me or engaging with me. It's not because they don't like you. It's just because their style as a person is a bit different. So those are the blues and the reds and the blues. But what we've also then got is that, so if you again imagine this circle at the top with people being very task focused, those people at the bottom then are what we call the yellows and the greens. And those are people that are much more focused on the relationship. So take a yellow. Yellows generally are quite fast paced. They are moving, quickly. They're focused on, literally relationships. They want to make things happen, but they care not just about the task being done, but how does it affect people? How do people feel about this? How do we get people on side with what we're looking to do? And yellows are incredibly charming normally. They're sophisticated. They're suave. They're relationship people. I'm a yellow. Only joking. I am a yellow, but I'll ignore the charm and the sophisticated parts. Those that know me will know I'm not that at all. No, I joke. But the yellows are those people that are just, they're great go-to people. They'll build relationships with people. They do tend to be people that are good at sales and selling. They will talk to people. They'll have conversations. They'll engage. They'll be friendly. They're smiling. They're jovial. They want to be part of something. They like being loved, basically. And yellows are very good at those aspects, and they're very good at the element of building relationships. People want to work with yellows. The challenge is sometimes for yellows is that they're not focused on getting things done. They're not the best. And I know this from my own sense. I'm a yellow, and I'm great at ideas, and I'm great at being able to do certain things, but am I good at finishing them off and getting them done? No, my PA and my team will tell you I've got projects that I've had in place for a couple of years that I haven't finished off. So, yellows need other people in their team, but they're about people. And I do. And for me, the reason I do these podcasts is I care deeply about the people like you listening to this. Even though I may not know you, I care deeply about you having the results and gaining success from the input that I share. So for the ideas that I share. So for me, it's yellows are people that care about the relationship. And then, by the way, the blues can be around sort of 15, 20% of our audience. Yellow's around the same sort of figure. And then we've got what we call the S's, the steady, the greens. And by the way, around 50% of the world are greens, according to Thomas Erickson. And greens are the people that are just great team players. They're on that people side. So if you imagine on this circle, we've got task at the top and people at the bottom. Greens are at the bottom with the yellows. They do believe in people, but they're also on that on the side of where it's if fast is one side and slow is the other, they're on the slow side. So they care about people, but they're about doing things in a routine, in a steady way. They don't want to rock the boat too much. Greens are amazing team players. We need greens in our team. But the challenge with greens sometimes is that they will be difficult to convince. Change or doing things that are different from them is hard for them. They love routine. They love stability. So to be able to move a green from where they are to where you want them to be can sometimes be a challenge. So look, those are the 4 styles and colours, the reds, the yellows, the greens and the blues. And the reality is how can you look out for different styles when you're selling? And this, again, is something I've talked about. It's a real sales skill that's an advanced sales skill to have. But let me give you the best example, and that's how I use it. And that's, I will first meet with someone, and I will spend the first minute or so doing a bit of an assessment of that person. And you meet some people and they come up to you and say, "Hey, how you doing? Great, nice to meet you. Hey, great, what's your name? I'm this, I'm this." And I could sort of tell straight away that person is likely to be more yellowy red to me than someone I might meet. I did a podcast with a lovely guy today, a guy called Martin. Lovely guy, but when I met him first off, I was able to sort of say to myself, I knew pretty quickly that he was a blue. He was quite quiet, he was quite guarded. He was, what he said meant a lot, but he was about detail. He was about getting things done. And so, Martin, if you listen to this, but I think we even had a joke about the fact that I was able to sort of spot the fact that you're a blue in that space. So being able to spot different people is dependent on the style that they come across with. And Thomas Erickson always says, if you're not sure, default to green. People, if you're not sure about what's going to be, default green is your default option, that sort of steady position. But when you do start to understand the different styles, then you can start to adjust behaviours and the things you do alongside that. So let me give you an example of what difference that would make. So let's say I was engaging with a red. A red person typically will make decisions quite quickly. They're about fast-paced. They're about getting things done. They're not particularly worried about the implications on people. They're just about make it happen. And so when I'm engaging with a red, I can be a little bit more direct back with that person. So with a red, I won't necessarily have lots of small talk. And by the way, I notice a red generally by their style, the way they come across. Their handshake normally is quite strong. They're normally quite a domineering, dominant figure or person. They like to control the conversation. Their body language can be quite controlling. So when I'm dealing with someone like that, who I generally know is quite sharp and to the point, I can be honest with them and say, look, what do you want to do to make this meeting useful for you? They don't want to waste time. Reds aren't interested in small talk. So they might say, I want to cover this, this and this. Great. And if we cover that, how do you feel comfortable about moving forward? Yeah, if we can do that, we can do a deal. Reds will make decisions quite quickly. If they like you, they think you can do something and they can tell you, they'll work with you. Whereas a green, for example, or a blue, when someone's a bit cautious, a bit cagey about something, I know I've probably got to put a bit more work in, a bit more effort in before that they are going to want to work with me. So whereas a red, I might push a bit quicker to get to a decision. With a blue, I wouldn't push them so quickly, but I would ask them, what other details can I share? They're a detailed person. I might say to them, what other details can I share that would give you confidence, that would make you feel comfortable? So I'll ask a different type of question depending on the person that I see. Whereas another example of that, and the deal that I lost, for example, when I mentioned at the start of the podcast, was I lost a deal to a blue. The lady I was talking to was a blue. She was clearly a blue. She was quite reserved. Her style was all about detail and wanted to see information. She was an accountant, and she's currently CEO, but she was an accountant. And I came at her with a vision. Can you imagine seeing this? I even gave her a scenario in a presentation. We said, imagine this is the person X, Y, and Z. This is the person that's going to go on the journey. And of course, blues can't do that. Blues don't picture things like that. Blues see facts and figures and details and data. They don't picture scenarios of people doing things. And the presentation I gave her just didn't give her the detail that she wanted, or didn't give her enough detail. And blues, because they move slowly, also, she didn't want to make a decision there and then. I could have reacted and approached it in a different way. What do I need to share with you that make you feel more comfortable? How are you really feeling about this? What data are we missing? What worries do you have? What concerns do you have? But I didn't do those things, and I learned the lesson from it. So one of the key, I guess, essences of this, and look, we're not going to cover all this on a 15, 20-minute podcast, but it's look out for different styles of people. How to spot a yellow. They'll come up and give you a hug even. They'll smile at you. Oh, good morning. Hello. Lovely to see you. How to spot a blue is, a bit more reserved, a bit more quieter, more good morning. Nice to meet you. They generally won't show much body language. How to meet a red when, like I said, is that strong handshake or that dominant, I want to make this happen. How to, notice a green maybe, someone that doesn't want to be in the spotlight, that doesn't want to be, doesn't want to be the big I am. They're more of a team player. So try and look out for when you're meeting people initially, what sort of style of person you're engaging with. And if you really have, mastered the art of great questions, and by the way, questions are still the route to sales success. It's just the question that I might ask a red or a blue might differ in both the question, the words that I say, but also the way in which I say it. So for example, a blue who's focused on the detail and at a slower pace, I might lower my pace and just be a bit more, tell me what you'd like to see there that would give you the detail that you need. Whereas a red, I might say, what is it you're looking for to make a decision? So I might adjust my style and tone depending on the type of person that I speak to and see. And again, the courses that I run are about helping you spot that person to then be able to know how to adjust and adapt with them. But the reality is, if you can look to adjust your style based upon the person you're engaging with, you're going to be in a far better position to do the right thing. I always say to people, sales is doing the right thing at the right time, taking the right action at the right time. And unfortunately, if you push a green or a blue too far too soon, they'll think you're being too pushy and they'll back off and you won't hear from them again. Whereas if you try and have small talk with a red, they're probably going to feel like you're wasting their time and they don't want to have that conversation. They just want to get things done. So looking out for spotting those signals and signs is critical. And the more you have conversations, the better you can be. And again, for many years, I was able to think everyone's the same. Sales is the same. Sales is common, but what I will look for is now the style of person, and then I'll try and engage and adapt my style to be based upon that. And if you can do the same thing, just think, if I'm doing engaging with a blue, that's someone a bit more detail focused, then I might need to be a bit slower and make sure I'm and speaking a bit more slowly and encouraging them to ask for information and what details. Whereas if it's someone with a yellow, then I'm going to focus on having lunch with them and building a relationship because that's what they care about. So have a little look out for these different styles and let me know what you think. I mean, I've done these courses now with over a couple of hundred people. I've had people say to me, I now know why me and my wife don't get on because she's one style, I'm another. I've had people say to me that they've saved hours of time from not having to prepare reports and information that they previously did with people. I've had people say to me that they saved hours of time not having to send a proposal to someone because they were able to get something done there and then. So when you understand the audience and the dynamics and traits of that person, you can achieve a lot more. And if you're able to adjust your style and be able to still be true to yourself, but spot the different people that you've got, it can make a massive difference for you. So have a little think about this. Certainly, if you've not read Thomas Erickson's book, I hugely encourage you to read it. It's called Surrounded by Idiots. I've done a video on it, which we'll put a link to in the podcast notes. On his book. It's a brilliant way to try and spot and understand different types of people. It's a really great listen and read if you get a chance. But just try if you can to identify. Maybe when you go home tonight, listen to this. Look at the type. When you meet people, even if you meet someone, at a meeting or at a networking event, or out with friends for dinner, try and think to yourself: are they a blue? A bit quieter and more focused on the task, and not necessarily a people person so much. Are they a red person? Are they a bit more dominant? Are they a yellow? That charming, suave, sophisticated, or are they a bit green? And by the way, we all have different traits of each other. We're not all just always one colour. We will show different traits in different ways, as part of our daily approach. And of course, if we can be in the middle of this circle and be a bit of everything, then that's ideal. But invariably, the test and the work we do shows that people have a what we call a dominant style or adapted style. And if you can try and assess that when you meet people and get to know what they are, it's going to help you get the right results. So look, I wanted, as I always do, to finish the podcast with an inspirational story. And literally, I've got lots and lots of stories that I think are great. Inspirational stories for me give us all hope and help us do what we want to do and motivate us when we're feeling a little bit meh. But I wanted to talk a little bit about a guy called Gavin Alty, who launched a bike recycling scheme in Yorkshire. And Gavin realised that during the COVID lockdown period, he realised his neighbours were about to throw away a neglected bike. And he said he saw waste and he didn't like it. And he could see that, something that just needed a little fixing, needed to go to landmine. Didn't want to go to landfill. And what he started to do is to basically fix the bikes and then get people to buy them. And he donated the money to a cancer research charity and local charities. And he also donated the bikes that were then fixed to people that were refugees in the UK, which enabled them to get to work and do other things. So Gavin Orty, who launched this scheme during lockdown just to try and make use of other stuff and to help other people. Great inspirational story. A man that's helping other people just by being able to think clearly about what people can do. And he's now fixed over 300 bikes for people, and as saved the planet, but also help people in an incredible way. So Gavin, thank you for your inspirational story. It always helps me to share stories that can excite people and get them in a great place. So thank you for what you've done. And look, if you have an inspirational story that I've missed or I haven't shared, please let me know. I'd love to share it. But that's it for this week. That's it about the different types of styles of people. If it's been interesting to you, please like and subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you download it, share it with other people. Make sure you can identify to improve your sales skills. We share loads of ideas on a weekly basis, and I want to help you achieve the results you want to. So that's it for this week. Until next week, stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you then.